Night falls, and beneath the hazy glow of streetlights in the upscale neighborhood, a dark secret lurks, waiting to be exposed. I step into this battle not as an ordinary victim, but as a survivor, one who has risen above scornful glares and prejudiced whispers to stand where my enemies never expected. They thought they could strip everything from me. My faith, my justice, even the things I bled to build, but they were wrong. A missing car isn't just the start of a nightmare. It's the spark for an explosion that will shake the rotten system hiding behind manicured lawns and fake smiles. Have you ever wondered what really happens when those in power think they're untouchable? Leave a comment with the number 9 to join me in uncovering this festering issue. But I warn you, the truth will make your heart race and your blood boil beyond anything you've ever imagined. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel to follow me through the gripping twists of this story. I am Malcolm Jackson, 42 years old, a black man born and raised in the impoverished suburbs of Birmingham, Alabama. Now, I'm a judge at the district civil court in this area, a job I've poured sweat and tears into for 18 years to achieve. I moved to the upscale Crestview Heights neighborhood 12 years ago, hoping to find a peaceful place to build a life after years of being eyed with suspicion just for the color of my skin. I never imagined that even here, amid perfectly trimmed lawns and million-dollar homes, I'd still face injustice. Not just from discriminatory stares, but from a corrupt system rooted deep within this very community. I drive into my neighborhood after a 4-day judicial conference, longing to collapse onto my familiar bed. The setting sun stretches dark tree shadows across the meticulously tended lawns of Crestview Heights, where every blade of grass bends to the strict standards of Beatrice Langley, the HOA president. As I turn onto my street, an uneasy feeling swells inside me. My driveway is empty. My sleek black Mercedes, the one I saved for 8 years to buy, a reward to myself for sleepless nights fighting for justice, is gone. My hands tremble as I park the rental car on the curb and rush to the front door. A garish orange notice plastered crookedly over the doorbell catches my eye. The scrawled signature on it is one I've seen too many times on violation reports. Beatrice Langley, HOA president. The paper declares my car violated a new rule about vehicles not meeting community standards because of the court parking sticker I use. I check the date. The notice was issued exactly 1 day ago. Anger begins to smolder inside me, but I force myself to stay calm. It's a skill I've honed after years of facing those who'd rather see me brought low because of who I am. Mrs. Edith Moreau, my next-door neighbor, hurries over in her gardening clothes, her face etched with worry. She says she helplessly watched my car get towed away at 4 in the morning. She tried to intervene, holding up photos of my Mercedes legally parked in my driveway for years, but Beatrice coldly threatened to fine her $800 for interfering with HOA business. I pace the empty spot where my car once sat, my mind reeling. No oil stains, no signs of a violation. Nothing but the flimsy excuse Beatrice concocted. My phone buzzes with a text from Felix Hawthorne, the neighbor across the street. Check your security footage, you need to see what happened. As I unlock my door, I catch a glimpse of Beatrice watching from her third-floor window, binoculars in hand like a predator. She was elected HOA president 6 months ago, after Rupert Sinclair, the respected former chair, abruptly resigned under mysterious circumstances. Since then, Beatrice has turned this peaceful neighborhood into her personal fiefdom, measuring every blade of grass, fining people for things like flower pots in the wrong color or bikes left out for more than 2 hours. Inside, I find 7 violation notices stuffed under my door, each one listing increasingly absurd reasons. Unapproved professional parking, unauthorized display of official insignia, and finally a clause about immediate seizure rights I've never seen in the HOA rules in my 12 years here. As a judge, I know this isn't just overreach, it reeks of a conspiracy. The security system beeps as I review footage from 2 days ago. What I see chills my blood. Beatrice didn't just oversee the towing. She orchestrated it with an almost sick glee, pointing and gesturing like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction. But what catches my eye next is worse. A gleaming white Cadillac pulls up, and a man in an expensive suit steps out to talk to Beatrice. Though the camera captures it in the dark, I recognize the family resemblance. It's her brother-in-law, Hugh Langley, a notorious used car dealer from the outskirts. They point at my car, laughing, and what I read from their lips makes me shudder. Another black guy thinking he belongs here. As a black judge, I'm used to scams and bias in the courtroom, but this is different. This is personal. A blend of corruption and racial bigotry I've faced my whole life. They don't know I was appointed to oversee civil property cases in this district 3 days ago. Sitting in my empty house, staring at the void where my Mercedes should be, I realize this isn't just about a missing car. It's the tip of an iceberg far deeper than I imagined. My hands shake as I rewind the driveway camera footage. The timestamp shows 4:12 in the morning when the tow truck silently crept in, lights off. But what tightens my chest is the sight of Beatrice Langley in designer pajamas, pearls around her neck, directing the driver with zealous gestures. She even pauses to snap a selfie next to my Mercedes as it's hooked up. I'm still glued to the screen when the doorbell rings. Felix Hawthorne stands there, tense, clutching his phone. "Judge Jackson, you need to see this," he whispers, glancing over his shoulder like he's being watched. Felix shows me a video he filmed at the neighborhood park yesterday. Beatrice holds court among her lackeys, her tone arrogant. They think they can park any trash in their yards. I'm cleaning this place up, one by one. It gets worse. She brags about seizing the Whitlock's delivery van for disgracing the neighborhood, and Edith's car for being too old and beneath our standards. She waves a stack of towing receipts, declaring, "I'm taking Crestview Heights to new heights, one car at a time." Felix leans closer. "There's more. I've been tracking her for 4 weeks. Beatrice targets specific people. Newcomers, black folks like you, or anyone who dares question her at HOA meetings. But here's the crazy part." He pulls up another video, showing Beatrice meeting Hugh behind the clubhouse, looking at car photos on her phone and taking a check from him. Just then, my work phone buzzes, the court confirming my new appointment. Ironically, it makes me more sad than happy. 18 years building a reputation for fairness on the bench, and now watching Beatrice plunder my neighbors, I struggle to stay calm. "Felix," I say, "we need to find out where those cars are going. Can you help me?" He grins, pulling out a small notebook. "I'm already on it, Judge. I'm not just your neighbor. I'm an investigative reporter for the Crestview Gazette. I've been gathering evidence on HOA fraud across the county." Beatrice is just the tip of the iceberg. As we talk, someone else rushes up. Lila Moreau, Edith's granddaughter, tears streaming down her face. "Judge Jackson, they just took my grandma's car too. She needs it for dialysis." I glance out the window, seeing Beatrice strut down the sidewalk in expensive heels, clipboard in hand, hunting her next target. She doesn't know her power game is about to crash into a wall of justice I'm building myself. I start to call the court, but a strange detail in the footage stops me. Behind the tow truck, another car cruises by, one I recognize from the courthouse parking lot. Things start clicking, but I need proof. I turn to Felix. "Want an exclusive scoop on corruption bigger than this neighborhood?" My hands tremble as I open an email from the county clerk's office. Auction records show my $75,000 Mercedes sold for a measly $15,000 to Langley's Luxury Autos, a dealership I've never heard of. Legal instincts kicking in, I dig through public records. The owner? None other than Hugh Langley, Beatrice's brother-in-law. I call the court archives, where my old friend Margot Vance works. She's stunned. "Judge Jackson, you're the 8th person this week asking about car auctions from your HOA. Margot sends me files showing 9 other cars sold the same way in the past 4 months, all targeting people like Edith, a 76-year-old widow who lost her husband's classic Mustang, the Whitlocks who lost their truck while visiting family, or Ivy Kessler who lost her Prius working a night shift at the hospital." I spread the documents across my dining table when the doorbell rings again. Edith stands there, clutching papers, eyes red. "I was too scared to speak up," she whispers. "Beatrice threatened to lien my house if I fought back." She hands me threatening letters from Beatrice, each one crueler than the last. The security system beeps again. Beatrice is photographing my empty driveway, talking on her phone. I use my phone's directional mic, a gift from my tech-savvy daughter, and catch her words clearly. Hugh, hurry up and move the cars out of state. That black judge is sniffing around. I open the HOA regulations on my computer. Section 19 states clearly that no vehicle can be towed without prior notice of 45 days and 4 separate warnings. None of us received even a single warning. Another document sends a chill down my spine. Bank statements showing Beatrice received $12,000 after each car sale. A pattern so blatant it'd be laughable if it weren't so tragic. This isn't just a rule violation. It's a criminal offense. The doorbell rings again. Felix stands there with 3 other neighbors from the towing list. Judge Jackson, he says quietly. We found this. He shows me photos of a hidden lot behind Langley's Luxury Autos, where Edith's Mustang, still bearing its veteran license plate, is being loaded onto a truck bound for another state. As I copy the evidence, the camera alerts me again. Beatrice is slapping violation notices on every car on the street, but this time, her face betrays raw panic. She knows she's being watched, but she has no idea how much proof we've gathered. I shut my laptop and look at the group in my living room. Edith sits straighter, the Whitlocks hold hands, a flicker of hope in their eyes. Tomorrow, I say, we'll show Beatrice what happens when she messes with the wrong people. But first, I need to call my friend in the FBI's Economic Crimes Unit. I arrive early to set up the community center for the emergency HOA meeting. My hands steady as I connect my laptop to the projector, though my heart pounds like it's trying to break free from my chest. Just 15 minutes before the start, residents stream in, the air thick like the calm before a storm. Edith Moreau, who lost her late husband's classic Mustang 7 weeks ago, sits in the front row, clutching a stack of papers as if it's her last stand before the end. Behind her, the Kessler family whispers to each other, voices trembling as they mention their son's first car vanishing just 4 days after he left for college out of state. Beatrice Langley struts in 8 minutes late, arrogant in a pristine Chanel dress and exorbitant heels probably worth more than a year's rent for many here. Her brother-in-law, Hugh Langley, slips quietly into the back corner, trying to shrink despite the gleaming Patek Philippe watch on his wrist that's impossible to hide. The room is packed. Never have I seen so many at an HOA meeting, the atmosphere stifling like a courtroom awaiting a death sentence. Let's make this quick, Beatrice declares, tapping an expensive Mont Blanc pen on the podium, her tone dripping with superiority. Some of us have dinner reservations at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I stand slowly, cutting her off with a cold smile. Not so fast, Beatrice. You might need to cancel those plans. I step forward, letting my judge's badge dangle visibly around my neck, a silent reminder of the authority I wield. For those who don't know me, I'm Judge Malcolm Jackson from the District Civil Court. Beatrice's face drains of color like she's seen a ghost, her panicked eyes darting around. Hugh jolts up, his chair scraping the floor as he edges toward the door. But Felix Hawthorne is quicker, silently blocking the exit, his gaze sharp like a guard awaiting orders. Today, we'll watch some noteworthy footage, I say, pressing the remote. The projector hums to life, displaying crisp security camera images. Beatrice directing a tow truck to my driveway at 4 in the morning, 10 days ago. Look closely at the timestamp, 4:12 in the morning. Now, let's see the HOA rules on vehicle seizures. I click again, pulling up the regulation Beatrice herself drafted. Section 19 states clearly, all towing must happen in daylight with 45 days notice. But here, I switch to more clips, our late-night tows from other homes. Beatrice scrambles, her voice shrill and cracking. Those were legal seizures. Those cars polluted this neighborhood. Like Edith's rusty Mustang. I pivot the screen, showing an auction list. Oh, really? Then why was it sold by your brother-in-law's Langley's Luxury Autos for $60,000 after being bought at auction for just $8,000? I turn to Hugh, but he's gone, the back door swinging like he fled in a panic. The room erupts in boos, residents leaping to their feet, waving papers and photos of their stolen cars. Beatrice's perfectly manicured fingers tremble as she taps the podium, realizing control is slipping through her grasp like sand. Nonsense, she shrieks, her voice a piercing alarm. I'm protecting property values. Those black and low-life scum ruin our neighborhood. I step closer, my voice low but cutting like a blade. Which scum, Beatrice? You mean people like me? A black judge daring to live among your class? Tell me which rule I broke. I pull up more documents on the screen. This is the original HOA charter from the county recorder's office. It's nothing like the fake version you've enforced. No legal vote ever changed it. Edith rises, her voice shaky but firm. My husband spent 25 years restoring that car. We had all the permits. The Kesslers roar. Our son worked 4 years for that car, and you dare call it trash? Beatrice loses it, snatching her designer purse and lunging toward Felix, but she freezes when camera flashes flood the hallway. The local news crew I invited is aiming lenses at her. I didn't mention Felix was wearing a wire, did I? I say softly, locking eyes with her. Sit down, Beatrice. We haven't gotten to the dirty money flowing from your personal account to the dealership yet. Oh, and the FBI out there wants to talk about moving stolen cars across state lines. Her face twists like melting wax, realizing her empire is crumbling. But that's not the climax. Felix leaps up, dropping a bombshell that silences the room. I'm not just a neighbor. I'm Felix Hawthorne, investigative reporter for Channel 9 News, and I've tracked this HOA car theft ring across 5 states. Murmurs explode like wildfire as Felix plugs his laptop into the projector. My hands grip the podium, images flashing on the screen like daggers into the heart of corruption. Dozens of cars legally seized by the HOA, all sold through the Langley family's dealership network. The pattern is clear as day, targeting homes when residents are away, fabricating violations, then rushing auctions before victims can fight back. Edith sobs, pointing at a photo of her husband's Mustang in an Arizona lot, repainted and listed for 4 times its auction price. The Kesslers shout as they spot their son's SUV, which Beatrice called abandoned, while they visited family in Canada. Felix shows surveillance photos. Beatrice meeting other HOA members at upscale restaurants, coaching them on tweaking rules to legitimize theft. Bank records reveal kickbacks disguised as consulting fees funneled through shell companies. With my legal expertise, I count at least 20 federal charges in this pile. But what chills the room is Felix's map. Red dots marking seized cars form a perfect ring around low-income neighborhoods and retirement communities. Beatrice preyed on the most vulnerable. I growl. Black people, the elderly, the poor, those she thought wouldn't fight back. There's more, Felix says quietly, pulling out a thick file. Remember last year's charity car show Beatrice hosted? Every donated classic was seized by her first. Then she took credit to dodge taxes. Beatrice's face pales like a corpse, her hands furtively texting under the table. Felix catches my eye and nods. His team's been tracking her communications, everything backing up to a secure server. The Hawthorne's college fund car, the Morrow's wheelchair van, the Whitlock's small bakery delivery truck, all sold through Hugh Langley's network, each story a piece exposing how Beatrice built her luxury wardrobe and vacation homes on the wreckage of broken families. My phone buzzes, a text from the FBI's Economic Crimes Unit. They've been waiting for someone like me to crack this case against her syndicate. As a black judge turned victim, I'm the key they need. I look up at Felix, who gives a knowing smile. Judge Jackson, he says, it's time to show Beatrice what real justice looks like. The room falls silent as Beatrice's phone pings. An email from my office, bearing my judicial title, demanding preservation of all HOA records for a federal investigation. Her face says it all. She realizes she didn't just cross a resident. She ignited an avalanche that will bury her criminal empire. 5 in the morning the next day. My phone buzzes wildly with a text from Felix. Turn on channel 11 now. I flip on the TV, seeing Hugh Langley's dealership swarmed by news vans, reporters waving familiar documents from my investigation. My hands shake as the story explodes live on air. Less than 2 hours later, the doorbell rings incessantly. Beatrice stands there, still in her impeccable outfit, but thick makeup can't hide her raw panic. Judge Jackson, this is a huge misunderstanding. I can explain. She clutches her exorbitant Hermes bag like a lifeline. I invite her in, my voice calm as in a courtroom, though Felix set up a legal recording device in the living room last night, capturing every word. Beatrice's excuses shift like the wind. First a system error, then blaming Hugh, then whispering, "We can settle this privately, you know?" I silently spread documents on the coffee table. Photos of every car she took, bank statements tracing dirty money, statements from elderly folks losing their only means of survival. "Your brother-in-law sold my Mercedes to the Delaney's in Texas," I say, sliding the sale contract across. "A single black family with 4 kids, thinking they got a reliable car. Did you think of them when you set this up, Beatrice?" She screeches, her face contorting. "Those people should thank me. I keep this neighborhood's value up. Do you know how black folks' cars drag property prices down?" She snatches her phone, texting frantically. Through the window, I see more news vans roll up. Felix timed it perfectly, his exposé flooding every local channel. Beatrice Langley's phone buzzes incessantly, a flood of messages from other HOA board members pouring in, desperately trying to distance themselves from her. But the final blow strikes like lightning when Edith Moreau, my 82-year-old neighbor, shuffles past the window, supported by her granddaughter Lila Moreau. They're heading toward the news vans to share their heartbreaking story. Beatrice stole their family's only car while Edith was hospitalized, a vehicle holding her late husband's last oxygen tank. A sacred keepsake now turned into a trophy of greed. Beatrice's phone blares again. A call from Hugh Langley, her brother-in-law. I watch her face pale to ash as she listens. He's cutting a deal with investigators, selling her out to save himself. Beatrice leaps up in a panic, knocking over her exorbitant Louis Vuitton bag, dozens of credit cards spilling out, each tied to a shell company linked to the car theft ring. As she scrambles to gather them, red and blue police lights flash outside the window. She looks up at me, her wild eyes finally recognizing the abyss she dug for herself. "I'll make it right," she screams, her pleading voice breaking. "I'll get your car back." I open the door, replying coldly, "This isn't about my car anymore, Beatrice. It's about every car you stole, every family you ruined, and every law you trampled because you thought you were above it all. Especially above black folks like us." 2 FBI agents step onto the walkway, reading Beatrice her Miranda rights as neighbors gather on the lawn. Some weeping, others embracing in victorious relief. Felix Hawthorne stands quietly, filming it all, while Lila Moreau gives me a discreet thumbs up. The small crowd cheers as Beatrice is led to the patrol car, still shouting about property values. But this is just the beginning. My dining table overflows with evidence of similar schemes stretching across 7 states. Tomorrow, I'll start the real work, reclaiming justice not just for this neighborhood, but for every community terrorized by HOA tyrants who forget the law applies to them too. The morning of Beatrice's trial opens with a shock. As I enter the courtroom, Felix is already waiting with a thick stack of files, his eyes blazing with determination. The FBI raid on Hugh's dealership uncovered something worse than car theft. A secret room packed with records spanning 12 years. My hands tremble as I flip through the pages. Beatrice and Hugh targeted residents across 8 different HOA communities. They had a system, fabricating fake rules absent from official documents, waiting for victims to go on vacation or work night shifts to tow cars, even using coded texts to pick targets. Purge time. The phrase reeks of racism, aimed squarely at people like me, black folks daring to live among their class. The courtroom fills quickly, the air suffocating like before a public execution. I see Edith, the widow who lost her husband's classic Mustang, in the front row, her frail hands clutching a stack of papers. Behind her sits Lionel Grayson, who lost his wheelchair-accessible van while hospitalized. Even my old friend, Judge Dorian Blackwell, attends. His son's car was one of Beatrice's earliest targets years ago. Beatrice enters in an orange prison jumpsuit instead of designer gowns, her elaborate hair now flat, avoiding my gaze. Hugh sits at another table, whispering frantically to his lawyer. Unaware security cameras caught him trying to shred documents last night, but the FBI backed everything up. The evidence grows uglier. Felix's investigation reveals they netted over $4.5 million from selling stolen cars, with secret accounts scattered across states and fake names hiding the dirty money. But what horrifies the room is learning Beatrice repeated this scam everywhere. Moving city to city, joining HOAs, stealing cars, then fleeing when suspicion arose. One by one, people stand to tell their stories, their voices like knives piercing Beatrice's deadly silence. A young black nurse sobs over losing her car, leaving her no way to get to the hospital. A retired black teacher chokes up, explaining he had to sell his home after his car was taken, unable to shop for groceries. Each tale makes Beatrice sink lower, yet she offers no apology, her abuser's ego too vast to bend. Then a miracle unfolds. The court phone rings non-stop with calls from other neighborhoods. They saw the news, recognized Beatrice from past HOAs, and sent piles of evidence. Photos, threatening letters, tow receipts. The FBI sets up a hotline just for her victims. The climax comes when they find my Mercedes in a town 4 states away, used by a poor black family who had no idea it was stolen, its paperwork faked by the dealership. I decide to let them keep it. Justice means more to me than any possession. As I prepare to sentence, I scan the courtroom. Felix still scribbles. Edith holds Lionel's hand, their eyes alight with faith. Beatrice's perfect plan collapsed from blind greed. She never bothered checking who that Mercedes belonged to. A black judge ready to topple her empire. I deliver the verdict. 18 years for Beatrice, plus full restitution to all victims. Hugh gets 13 years. But the real victory isn't locking them up. It's seeing families trampled, especially black folks like me, finally witness justice. That night, driving home in my new car, parked nowhere near the front yard, I smile, thinking how a stolen Mercedes brought down a criminal empire. The new HOA board, led by Edith and Lionel, rewrites every rule to protect residents, installing cameras everywhere so no one dares overstep again. At monthly community meetings, we sometimes laugh about Beatrice thinking she could outsmart a black judge, but no one forgets the lesson. When ordinary people, especially those oppressed for their skin, stand against abusers, justice prevails. This information is for entertainment and informational purposes only. HOA laws vary by state and community. The story of Malcolm Jackson isn't just a thrilling quest for justice. It's a mirror reflecting today's societal sores, where corruption, abuse of power, and racism still fester in the shadows of communities, from small neighborhoods to larger systems. I feel rage at the injustice wrought by people like Beatrice Langley, yet pride in the strength of ordinary folks, especially the oppressed, when they rise to fight. This tale offers a clear lesson. Justice doesn't come free. It demands unity, courage, and a refusal to bow to wrong, no matter how mighty the foe. In modern life, facing injustice, we can learn from Malcolm. Gather evidence, find allies, and turn the system against itself. Note, this story is for entertainment and education only, not meant to discriminate, criticize, or offend any individual or group. What do you think of this tale? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to explore more meaningful stories. Thanks for listening to the whole video. Wishing you a peaceful day, and see you in the next ones.